Welcome back to my studio. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the basics of applique, so let's get started. Alright, so to get started, we're going to use two different satin colors. These are both just satin polyester fabric. We're going to use purple as our base, and silver is going to be the star that we applique on top of it. I have my star piece of paper. This is just going to be my stencil. I have some Mighty Fuse from So Much Cosplay, and I also have just some tearaway stabilizer that I bought a huge roll of years ago and rarely use. So to get started, we are going to trace our star onto Mighty Fuse with the waxy side up. We're going to take and just trace this over this piece here. Alright, we can set our template aside and we're going to just cut. We don't even have to really cut the star out. We're just going to cut the little bit of square that we want that has our star on it. And with the wrong side of our silver satin, we're going to hold our star and take our iron and just press and hold. We're fusing the Mighty Fuse to this satin. I have an entire video on how to use Mighty Fuse if you need to watch that to understand it. Otherwise, we're just going to sit and hold this for about 5 seconds. And now we're going to just wait for that to cool. And while it cools, we are going to just try to find a nice square amount of this stabilizer that we are going to use for the purple fabric. Okay, so once this cools, we are going to cut our star and satin out. So now we are going to peel the waxy part of this off, or the paper part of this off, to reveal another layer, or another side of glue. So all of this now has little glue on it, and we are going to place our star where we want it. For this tutorial, we're not going to get too specific, but for other applique pieces, you might need to get more specific than this. So now we're going to fuse the star, the silver star, to the purple satin. All right, so now we have a star that is perfectly fused. You could stop here if you really wanted to, but we want to get a really awesome applique stitch around this. Now to do this, you need some sort of stabilizer to sew this into your sewing machine, and there's several ways to add stabilizer. You can go and purchase a fusible stabilizer. That is what I would recommend. However, for the purpose of this tutorial, I am going to be using just any stabilizer that I have, and I'm going to be pinning it on the outside of my star. So we're not really trying to go into the star or anything. We're literally just using it to stabilize this piece. Now you can also use a heat and bond or some sort of adhesive spray to adhere this to your satin. I'm trying to make this as easy as possible with the fewest amount of materials. So instead of fusing it like that, we're just going to use our pins like we normally would, and we're just going to pin around the entire piece of stabilizer. This is why we cut our stabilizer piece just a little bit more than we would have for the star, and the stabilizer is going to be removed later. So it's not the biggest issue. It's really just there to help when we go to sew around this to help the stitches. All right, so we've pinned this. Now we're going to take it over to the machine. All right, so now we need to set our machine up so that we can do applique stitches. The first thing that I am going to do is turn my pressure knob up here down to the 2 instead of the 3. So we're going to turn that to a 2. We're going to go over here and we're going to turn this knob to a 12, which is our zigzag stitch. Now we're going to have our stitch width at a 4, our stitch length is going to drop all the way down to a 1, and then right here on our tension dial, we're going to drop this down to a 2. This is going to help us achieve our applique stitch, but we have one more thing that we need to do. We need to change our A foot to the B foot, and what is mostly different about these is that this is like mostly see-through, but there's also a line that goes right through the center of it here. And this line is going to help me line up my pieces. Okay, so now we have our machine ready to do an applique stitch. Now remember, this is going to be different on every single sewing machine, so just look at your manual to figure out how to do it on your sewing machine. Now we're going to actually do our stitch. Okay, so now it's time to actually sew our applique stitch, and basically our goal with this is, because it's a zigzag, we want half of the zigzag to be on this side, on the purple side of the fabric, and the other half to be on the silver side of the fabric. So we're going to drop our needle, drop our foot like we have here, and we're just going to slowly allow it to zigzag all the way over it until we get to the tip of this star. Now, to pivot the star, we are going to drop our needle, and what I found was that I like to have my needle start right in the silver section up at the top of the star, and then I will pivot. So I will pivot by lifting up my presser foot, turning my fabric. See how we can turn it back and forth? I'm going to turn it again until we have what's in front of us is our next straight line, and we can drop it, and we're going to try to get this once again lined up as close to this center line that's on the presser foot as we can, and sew. And we will do this all the way around the star. All right, so here is our star, and we are now going to do one of my favorite parts, which happens to be tearing out the tearaway stabilizer. All right, and there you are. You have your applique star, and you are ready to applique. If you liked this video and would like to see more sewing videos from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and until the next time, happy sewing!